My husband cooked dinner. My daughter and I collapsed after eating. Pretending to be unconscious, I heard him whisper, "It's done. They'll both be gone soon." When he left the room, I whispered, "Don't move yet." What happened next shocked even me. If someone had told me 5 years ago that the man I married would one day try to poison me, I would have laughed in their face. James was perfect, or so I thought. Tall, charming, brilliant in the kitchen, and always the first to help a neighbor or fix a leaky pipe. He knew how to smile with his whole face, and he made everyone feel seen. Everyone except me. Eventually, we met at a hospital fundraiser. I was a nurse, tired and aching after a double shift, helping run a charity booth for pediatric cancer. He was the star volunteer, flipping burgers and making kids laugh. It was cliché, but I fell fast. 2 years later, I was married. 3 years after that, we had our daughter Ava. And 5 years later, I was staring at a plate of spaghetti, about to die by his hand. It was a Friday night, and James had offered to cook. That wasn't unusual. He loved taking over the kitchen after a long week. Ava had just come home from ballet practice, cheeks flushed with excitement. He adored James. Called him Daddy Hero. And despite all the tiny red flags I'd ignored over the years, I still wanted to believe he loved us. The garlic bread smelled amazing. The wine was chilled. The spaghetti sauce had that perfect red hue with chunks of tomato and basil swimming around like little boats. He served it with a smile. "You two deserve something special," James said, kissing the top of my head. I smiled and took a bite. So did Ava. Within 10 minutes, the room spun. My stomach clenched. My limbs turned to stone. I collapsed with my cheek pressed against the hardwood floor, facing my little girl. Her eyes were wide with panic, but she wasn't moving either. Then came the whisper. His voice barely audible. "It's done. They'll both be gone soon." And then, footsteps. I fought the panic rising in my throat. I couldn't feel my fingers, but I could move my lips. "Don't move," I said to Ava. Her fingers twitched in response. That was all I needed to know. We were both alive. Barely. But something in me snapped in that moment. Whatever love I had for James died right there on the floor. And that was the beginning of his end. I don't know how long we lay there. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe 40. My heart was racing so loudly, I couldn't even hear James moving around the house anymore. I kept my eyes half shut, my breathing shallow. I didn't want him to know I was still alive. Ava was so still. So quiet. I prayed she understood me, prayed she was pretending like I was. That she hadn't slipped into something worse. I heard the garage door creak. His car started. Then, silence. He was gone. So I waited. I forced myself to count. 10 seconds. 20. 100. I lost track. My muscles were stiff, the side of my face was numb from the floor, but I didn't dare move until I was sure. When I finally sat up, the pain in my stomach nearly knocked me out again. My vision blurred, but I blinked until I could make out Ava's small frame. She whimpered. "Mommy," she said weakly, "I'm scared." I crawled to her, dragging my limbs like they were filled with lead. "I know, baby. I know," I said, pulling her into my lap. "We're okay. I've got you." Her body was clammy, her skin pale. This wasn't just food poisoning. This was calculated. This was intentional. That night, I didn't call an ambulance. I didn't want a scene, not yet. I didn't want James to know we survived. Instead, I did the only thing I could think of. I called my brother, Chris. He was a retired Marine with nerves of steel, and the only person I trusted more than myself. When he picked up, I didn't even say hello. "I need you here. Now." Chris arrived in under 20 minutes, barefoot, still in sweatpants. He didn't ask questions. Just took one look at me and Ava, then started helping without a word. He checked our pulses, our eyes, our symptoms. Then he opened his backpack and pulled out something I hadn't expected. A medical field kit. "You kept that all these years?" I asked, voice raspy. He nodded. "Didn't think I'd need it for you." "What the hell happened?" "James poisoned us," I said, tasting the bitterness in my mouth. Chris's jaw clenched. "Are you sure?" I heard him. After we collapsed, he whispered, said it was done. Said we'd both be gone soon. Chris swore under his breath. He gave Ava a charcoal solution to absorb what might still be in her system. Then he handed me the same. I gagged but drank it. He took us to his house and watched over us. Neither Ava nor I got worse. By morning we could walk again, slowly and weakly. James thought we were dead. And I was going to make sure he wished we had been. The next few days were like playing chess in a burning house. I didn't go home. Chris took us to a friend's cabin 2 towns over. I told Ava we were going on a surprise vacation, that it was a secret game. She didn't smile, but she nodded like the brave girl she was. Meanwhile, I called out of work. Chris hacked into our home security system. The cameras James had insisted on installing for protection became our evidence. Footage from the night of the poisoning showed him in the kitchen, pouring something into the sauce. He thought he deleted the footage. He didn't know Chris had set up cloud backups the last time he visited. I had him dead to rights, but I wasn't going to the police. No, James wasn't just going to be arrested. He was going to be ruined. I spent the next 2 days quietly gathering everything I needed. Chris and I went through bank statements, old text messages, call logs, anything that might explain why James had tried to kill us. And then we found it. A hidden joint account. Opened in a different state. Under his name and someone named Becky. The same name that had popped up once on his phone. Months ago. He said she was an old college friend. She wasn't. She was younger. Prettier. Wild from what I saw on her social media. Private now, but Chris had ways around that. There were wire transfers from our home savings account to that secret one. Nearly $87,000 missing. Money I had saved. Money meant for Ava's future. James was planning to disappear. With her. He didn't want a messy divorce. He didn't want custody battles. He didn't want alimony. He wanted a clean break. And to him that meant 2 bodies and a tearful eulogy before he hopped on a plane with his new girlfriend and started fresh. I had been married to a murderer in disguise. But he underestimated me. And now I was going to become his worst nightmare. Step 1. I needed proof that could hold up. Chris and I printed the footage. Made backups. Sent copies to secure cloud drives and a flash drive I kept around my neck. I went to the hospital under a fake name, got a toxicology test and didn't say a word about what had happened. Just bad spaghetti, and I think someone messed with my food. They ran tests. Confirmed the presence of ethylene glycol, an ingredient found in antifreeze. A slow killer. Tasteless in small doses. Dangerous, especially to kids. I cried in the car on the way back. Then I dried my tears and made a new list. Step 2. Let him bury himself. I called James that night. First time since it happened. Hey, I said weakly, Ava and I got food poisoning. We've been staying with a friend. I didn't want to worry you. He was quiet for a moment. Then the actor kicked in. Oh my God. Are you okay? I was wondering where you were. I thought you were mad at me or something. I smiled at the phone like I could see his face. Liar. We'll be home in a few days, I said. Miss you. You too, babe. He hung up. I screamed into a pillow until my throat went raw. 3 days later I went back home. Chris installed a new hidden camera in the kitchen and another in the bedroom. He stayed close, hidden but nearby. Just in case. James greeted us with open arms. Kissed my forehead. Hugged Ava a little too tight. If he noticed we looked thinner, quieter, more distant, he didn't say. He just went back to pretending. That night I made dinner. Spaghetti. Just like he had. I watched him closely as he took the first bite. And I saw it. That flicker of fear. He thought I had poisoned him. He put down his fork. This is good, he said. Thanks, I replied sweetly. I followed your recipe. Over the next week I played the role of loving wife. I let him believe he had fooled me. That his plan was working. Meanwhile I tracked down Becky. She worked at a real estate firm 2 hours away. I sent her a message from an anonymous email account, attaching a photo of her and James together. One I had found buried in his deleted album, and a screenshot of the joint bank account. Her reply was cold. I don't know who you are or what you think you know. But James told me his wife died last week. I stared at that message for a long time. He had already erased me. Already started living his next chapter. So I planned the final scene of mine. And it would bring the house down. I didn't sleep much that week. Not because I couldn't. Because I wouldn't. I didn't trust James not to try again. Every plate he handed me, every cup of coffee he brewed, I either faked a sip or tossed it when he wasn't looking. I watched him like prey. And I waited. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. One morning I accidentally left my laptop open on the kitchen table with a fake email on the screen. It was a draft to the police, not sent but just real enough. Subject: attempted murder, urgent evidence enclosed. Body: please find attached the video footage and test results. I fear for my daughters and my life. And right below it I left a flash drive. I knew he'd find it. I made sure Ava was at school. I told James the first was heading to a dentist appointment. But instead I parked around the corner and waited with Chris, who was monitoring the cameras from his phone. It didn't take long. James walked into the kitchen, saw the laptop and froze. Then panic. He grabbed the flash drive, yanked the laptop closed and called someone. I need to get rid of something, he said into the phone. No, not a body. Not yet. Just a flash drive. She knows. I returned home 30 minutes later. I didn't say a word about the missing flash drive. He didn't either. But that night he packed a suitcase. I have a conference in Denver, he said. That was the final nail. He was running. I gave Chris the go-ahead. The next morning I sat across from James at the breakfast table, pouring syrup over Ava's pancakes like nothing was wrong. He kissed our daughter goodbye. And then he left. Straight into the hands of 2 undercover officers. Friends of Chris from his military days, now working in law enforcement. They stopped him at the airport. They found the flash drive in his bag. The footage. The receipts. The proof of poisoning. Everything. James didn't call me from jail. But the news did. It hit the media like wildfire. Local chef arrested for attempting to poison wife and daughter. Suburban father tried to fake family tragedy before fleeing with secret lover. He cooked the Last Supper, but they survived. My phone blew up. Friends, family, coworkers, strangers. Everyone wanted to know how I'd survived. I didn't give interviews. I didn't say a word. But one night I wrote something online. Reddit post. No names. No locations. Just the truth. And it went viral. Thousands of comments. People telling me I was brave. That I was strong. That I was a hero. But I didn't feel like one. Not yet. Not until I looked Ava in the eyes, tucked her in bed, and knew that no one would ever hurt her again. The trial was brutal. James pled not guilty. His defense team tried to twist the narrative. She faked the footage. She poisoned herself for attention. She was mentally unstable. They called me a liar, a manipulator, even a criminal. But I had the truth on my side. I had toxicology reports. I had Becky's testimony. She flipped the moment she found out what James had done. Said he told her we were already dead. That he cried when he made the toast. To freedom, he said. I had video evidence. I had Ava, who bravely told the jury, Daddy made us sick. When the verdict came in, the courtroom was silent. Guilty. Attempted murder. Child endangerment. Premeditated assault. James was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Even after the verdict, I didn't feel immediate peace. I kept expecting to wake up and find it had all been a nightmare. That James would come home again. That we'd be sitting at the breakfast table pretending everything was okay. But that silence, the one I used to fear, now became a source of comfort. Ava asked questions, of course. Is Daddy gone forever? I knelt beside her, brushing a curl from her forehead. Yes, baby. He won't hurt us ever again. She blinked like she wasn't sure if she should be relieved or sad. I knew the feeling. Grief doesn't always come in one wave. Sometimes, it leaks in slowly, through the cracks left behind by betrayal. The house felt emptier. But in that emptiness we started to heal. I sold the house 2 months later. I didn't want to keep anything that James had touched. Any space where poison once simmered on the stove while he smiled like a loving husband. Chris helped us move into a new place. Smaller but cozy, near a school with kind teachers and a big playground. I got a new job too. Same hospital but a new floor. Less trauma, more healing. The nurses there knew my story. They tried not to treat me differently, but I could feel their eyes on me sometimes. They didn't see a victim. They saw a survivor. And for the first time in my life I believed it too. 3 weeks after the move, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting. James. I stared at it for an hour before opening it. Inside just one page. Neat cursive. No apology. You ruined me. You took everything. But one day Ava will grow up. And when she asks what really happened, I hope you can live with the lies you told. I didn't cry. I didn't burn it either. Instead, I took the letter, sealed it in an envelope, and wrote one word across the front. Proof. Then I stored it away in a box marked truths Ava should know someday. Because when the day comes, I'll tell her everything. And I won't need to lie. Ava started smiling again. Real smiles. She made a new friend named Lila, and they played dolls and had sleepovers and laughed so loudly, it made the walls shake. Every time she laughed, I felt a piece of my heart come back to life. I started therapy. So did she. We planted a small garden behind our apartment. Tomatoes, mint, sunflowers. Life became soft again. Not perfect but safe. And that was more than I could have asked for. One evening, as we watched the sunset together from our little porch, Ava leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "You're the best mommy in the world." And that's when the tears came. Not from pain this time, but peace.